الآن أتشرف بدعوة الأستاذ خوان كارلوس مotamayor المدير التنفيذي لقطاع الغذاء ليتحدث لنا عن طبيعة الاستزراع المائي في مشروع نيوم. خوان, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, Your Excellencies. NEOM is a new vision of what the future could be. It's an attempt to do something that's never been done before and is coming at a time when the world needs fresh thinking and new solutions. NEOM is a global opportunity. It is an opportunity to live as one human civilization in harmony with nature and one another, and an opportunity to build a new sustainable innovation-based economy. It's an opportunity to build and protect our future together. The food sector of NEOM sees NEOM as a community, a global community with food at its heart, harnessing innovation to nourish both people and planet, and guaranteeing food security for generations to come. Therefore, because of our focus on innovation and sustainability, NEOM is a logical test bed for companies looking to develop the products and services that will become mainstream globally in the upcoming years as countries devise and enforce stricter sustainability regulations in response to climate and consumer demand change, or are more focused in gaining food self-sufficiency. We have basically three key mandates. The first one is to create the world's most sustainable, inclusive, and environmentally friendly food ecosystem that leads to mass food self-sufficiency and stronger local economies. Our second mandate is to develop an integrated system of policies, regulations, and technologies that will lead consumers to make healthier food choices and reach overall well-being. And our third mandate is to scale up our processes in such a way that we can grow while reaching our carbon neutrality targets. But why aquaculture in NEOM? Basically, NEOM, as I mentioned, is focused in sustainability and is focused on innovation. And as has been mentioned, aquaculture produces only 10% of the CO2 emissions produced by beef and consumes up to 50% less water per gram of protein, which is key for these regions. Fish is also an essential source of key nutrients, such as omega-3s, as has been mentioned earlier, essential for infant development. And case's consumption is currently low at 9 kilograms per capita, with targets aiming to reach 20 kilograms by 2030. NEOM's cool waters offer some of the best conditions for aquaculture in the region, and aquaculture is being transformed by new technology, and we believe that at NEOM we can set the new aquaculture quality and sustainability standards, especially to conserve the precious marine ecosystems, and especially the coral reef of the Red Sea. But aquaculture is only one of other key pillars. We have 4 other key pillars in NEOM, and those are climate-proof agriculture, the production of sustainable alternative meats and alternative proteins, personalized nutrition, and the management of our supply pipelines. And all of this is supported by 4 key enablers: digital technologies, circular economy, policies and regulations, and a very extended innovation ecosystem that reach many institutes, research institutes, or technologies companies worldwide. Our mandate translates in very tangible outcomes, such as 600,000 tons of food by the year 2030. And this will allow us to reach and exceed our food self-sufficiency target for alternative meats and alternative dairy, fruits and vegetables, and for our seafood self-sufficiency targets. Indeed, we believe we can contribute to reach the overall kingdom seafood self-sufficiency production targets by 2030 of 600,000 tons with 80,000 tons. So let's talk more about our aquaculture pillar in NEOM. Basically, we are advancing 4 key areas. So the first one is related to the use of the latest technologies to adapt Red Sea native species to our growing conditions related to sea cages that are going to be operated and are currently operated in the NEOM region using genomic selection. The second key area that we are advancing is the development of more innovative and sustainable production systems, both in the marine side, through more sustainable sea cages, and in the land side, to make sure that we are compliant with the strict environmental regulations NEOM is enforcing. The third area is related to the replacement of fish meal using integrated insect and algae protein as a sustainable alternative of feed, for feed. And the fourth component is related to the development of all the production pipeline components that will allow us to produce Red Sea native species in NEOM besides the genomic selection program. So our focus on Red Sea native species is especially around 4 key species: kingfish, grouper, meager, and subaite. And the reason why we selected these species is not only because this allows us to meet the requirements of the NEOM Environmental Department, but also because these species have higher value in the market and are more suitable for secondary processing, which will allow us to increase gross profits. The sustainable feed approaches or pipelines that we are developing are related to algae production and insect production. So to reach those very specific volumes and those specific outcomes, we are planning or retrofitting existing assets in NEOM, and those involve 22 hectares of indoor RAS systems, 2,500 hectares of recirculating ponds, 160 hectares of hatchery and nursery facilities, and 350 hectares of offshore and near-shore cages. In this exercise, we are in the process of allocating or identifying the location for algae production, insect farming, and seafood processing facilities. As mentioned, to comply with our strict regulations around nature conservation, we have to focus on the use, at least for marine production, on Red Sea native species. So this is requiring the development of a biotech unit that will focus on developing predictive models using genome-wide information to adapt these species to our growing conditions in NEOM. And we are in the process of getting advanced negotiations with international technology, aquaculture technology companies that will allow us to reach these goals that also involve developing a leading hatchery in the MENA region, where we're going to be producing 40 million juveniles per year. And we are scheduling the first batch of brood stock to be in our hatchery by 2023. The 4 key departments of this biotech unit involve the breeding department that will start focusing all the breeding and genomic program with broadening the genetic diversity of the broodstock. Then we have the hatchery department producing multiple species, not only for the sea cages operation, but also for the land-based operations or other operations outside the NEOM region. And then we have the nursery department that will be growing juveniles, again, of multiple securities with a focus, multiple species with a focus on biosecurity and economics. And the sales of the juveniles will be prioritized to those partners that are linked to our value chain. We will have land-based operations as well, basically two types of land-based operations. So the first one involves recirculating aquaculture ponds, and the second one, RAS indoor systems, where we'll be enabling and making sure that we comply with the highest biosecurity and sustainability production standards. The recirculating aquaculture ponds, we have a strong focus on complying with our zero discharge policy, which requires filtration of the water using multiple species, not only for the absorption of excess of nutrients in the effluents, but also to get commercial value from those species such as sea cucumbers and algae. We expect from the RAS systems that will have, again, a strong focus on biosecurity and water filtration and zero liquid discharge as well, to produce 12,000 metric tons per year through these indoor facilities and 48,000 tons through a mix of species on recirculating aquaculture ponds. But this requires the deployment of key innovations that will allow us to comply with this objective based on high protection or strict environmental regulations, such as biological filtration, biofloc technologies, microbubbles, vaccine development, etc. But again, this is not only giving us the opportunity to be compliant by filtrating the water, for example, but technologies such as the biofloc technology, which converts nitrates and nitrates and prevents harmful bacteria and instead promotes the development of phytoplankton, for example, allows to increase the conversion of protein from the feed at least 50% by at least 50% in the farmed fish. We are exploring, as I mentioned, to scale up the production in marine cage to 350 hectares. Currently, we are operating through the partnership with TFC 52 hectares of marine cages, and this will be done in parallel to the hatchery and the breeding program. And we will have a focus on pioneering Red Sea native species at large commercial scale, but this will be done only once we believe the technology is ready and we believe the market demand is there to fully phase out the current species that are being grown on these cage systems. And we believe that through these 350 hectares, we will be reaching a production target of 20,000 metric tons per year. But again, this will require the implementation and the deployment of multiple innovations, such as digital farm management solutions that are being now under trials with the current cages in the NEOM region, IoT sensors to monitor any impact in the environment, AI-assisted camera systems to analyze fish behavior for minimal environmental impact and increase yield, biomass measurement systems, precision automatic feeding solutions, submersible farming cages. This will not only allow us to operate in higher or deeper regions in the sea, but also will allow us to be compliant in the future with the requirements of the real estate developments in the coastal areas that are of high value and would require this kind of technologies of submersible cages. But we are also exploring other more sustainable cage systems such as closed-contained marine farming cages and integrated multi-trophic aquaculture systems. So as was mentioned earlier, I believe this morning, we cannot talk about the sustainability of aquaculture if we are growing aquaculture proportionally to the utilization of fish meal. This is why we have a program to replace fish meal to get high-quality protein, and we are exploring three technologies. So basically, insect bioconversion of organic side streams to produce proteins, and the most mature technology that we have selected is related to the production of black soldier fly larvae, and this will be using organic side streams. At the beginning, we will be using side streams from catering and from our agriculture waste. And we are calculating that through this technology, we can produce per year 7,000 metric tons of insect protein meal and 4,000 metric tons of lipids. As a byproduct, we will be generating 25,000 metric tons of soil amendments, which is essential for our agricultural pillar, which requires the conversion of sand to living soils. And we believe that in the future, this could provide a synergistic solution for sludges from fish ponds and water sanitation. The second technology that we're exploring for a sustainable feed includes single-cell protein, which involve fermentation of unicellular microorganisms in large bioreactors. And this requires multiple potential feedstocks that we have identified in NEOM, mostly gases, such as methane from the methane field existing in NEOM, or methane from the bioconversion units managed by the waste management department. Another potential source that we have explored is hydrogen from the Helios hydrogen plant. And this, initially, through the implementation of this technology, we believe we can produce 6,000 metric tons of single-cell protein. The third source of protein that we are exploring is farming of multiple seaweed species, and all of these localized according to the availability of nutrients from the effluents of other aquaculture operations, because we believe this will not only allow us to produce a dry weight that can be converted into feed, but of course strip off the excess nutrients from the effluents of the aquaculture operations. So if we want to increase consumer demand, we have to change the behavior of the consumer partners that are the most common in the region and in the country more specifically. So through partnerships, we will develop processing facilities that at the beginning will be focused on processing whole fish, mainly for the local market, accordingly to local market trends. Eventually, we'll have additional lines for whole fish for export as well. And yearly, we believe that through primary processing, we can process 25,000 metric tons of primary processed fish, meaning gut/dress, and up to 31 metric tons of whole fish. But the most important element of this processing objective here is the secondary processing, which we believe can deliver high-quality offerings, gaining consumer trust and helping to achieve local consumer behavior towards secondary processor products that will involve more ready-to-cook fish, which will translate in higher demand. So for this second phase of our processing facilities, we'll be using the latest innovations such as robotics, AI, artificial intelligence, and we will be also revalorize some of the waste to increase gross profit and get byproducts that could be sold, such as supplements or products to other industries. And this secondary processing facility will be producing or processing 24,000 metric tons of fish. Now, with a current market that involves a 9.1 kilograms of seafood consumption per capita, and where 71% of the needs of this market are covered with imports, we do not foresee major issues to place the output of our productions in the KSA market. However, we are actively working in strategies to increase consumer demand, not only through what I mentioned related secondary processing, but regarding policies and regulations, because as you have maybe heard, and as I mentioned, NEOM will have its own regulations. But we are also working in improving national sales channels through partnerships, and also we are working in the development of export pipelines as well. So as NEOM strives to be at the forefront of innovation and sustainability, it will be a destination for those who want to be part of a new model for sustainable aquaculture and marine conservation. So please join us, and if you want to know more about what we are doing in NEOM, we'll be here several days, but otherwise you can reach us at neom.com. Shukran.